So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever happens to be while you're watching. So just wanted to do a video. I haven't done one for a little bit. Just sitting at my truck on lunch break. Wanted to get a point across that might shed a little light on some of the stuff that's going on, or what's being allowed to go on. Probably a better way to say that. This is specifically with the mandates, the overreach of government, etc. So first and foremost, today being October the 14th, 2021, there is no official mandate per Biden's speech from a week or two ago concerning businesses with over 100 employees. You guys all know the drill, right? There is no official governmental mandate. First and foremost, the federal government can't do that. It's not constitutional. They can't do it. They know they can't do it, but people are stupid, so they're allowing it to happen. There's no executive order written or signed. There's no legislation that's been signed into bill, or a bill signed into law. There's nothing. It's just Biden's talk. So the part of the enforcement of it was going to be OSHA regulation changes, which hasn't happened. So none of the mandates are official. Legally speaking, none of them are official, but companies are just falling in line. There's threats of violence, violence meaning not, physical, burn your house down shit, but just, fines, and we're going to investigate everything you do as a business. We're going to bring down the full weight of the government via OSHA or controlling agencies, inspecting agencies, that kind of stuff. So mandates is part of it, all the other stuff associated with it. Here's one part of this that I think is the reason why we're allowing it to happen. It's because of the middle class. I'm not saying it necessarily they're doing it on purpose or it's a bad thing, but hear me out for a second. Prior to the establishment of the United States of America, there literally was no middle class. You had small tidbits of middle class. You could call the people that did import or exporters and trading. That was like the main piece of the middle class, but a very, very, very small, considerable population of the world. You could even consider most of the people that were involved with trade before again, this is prior to the establishment of the United States, were basically kind of like almost nobility, right? Call them upper middle class, probably the best way to say that. Very, very small segment of the world global population. So with the advent and creation of the United States and the way we set up and the way our economy was set up and the way our government was formed created the middle class. Before the middle class, there was the haves and the have-nots. There really wasn't a middle ground. So with the way the United States was formed and the way our government was formed, our economic system, the capitalistic economy that we had, we built the middle class. So once the world started seeing what was going on in the United States, a lot of countries started emulating that and created a middle class within their own countries. Countries like England and France and Spain and all these other countries that had always been monarchies, which had the haves and have-nots. They remodeled their system of governance and their economic systems based on what was going on in the United States. So throughout the 1800s and obviously into the 1900s, the middle class was, as we know it today, was born. Okay. So I say that to build up to, prior to the middle class, we always had revolutions, globally speaking. Governments were constantly being attacked, overthrown, supplanted. It still happens to this day, not quite like it used to, but here and there it still does. But if you think about where it currently happens in most of the world, it's in third world type nations that have dictators, still have monarchs, oligarchs, whatever, where they have no middle class. You have the haves and you have the have-nots. Well, the have-nots have nothing to lose. Therefore, they're going to grab their pitchforks and their swords and their machetes and their muskets or whatever and go storm the Capitol. They have nothing to lose. They already have nothing. And that's what happened prior. That a lot of almost every country in the planet prior to the United States had gone through multiple revolutions. So the revolutions normally were started by the poor who were being oppressed, starving to death, etc., tired of being treated in like shit and trampled on and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to overthrow the government. They grabbed their pitchforks, they burned down castles, etc. Well, since the United States and since capitalism became a global economic type system, and because the middle class is now the largest portion of the world population, we have stuff to lose. We're not the haves of yore, if you will. We don't have, the billions or millions of dollars in the bank to fall back on during hard times or whatever. We have to go to work every day to put food on the table, to keep the lights on, that kind of stuff. Yes, within the middle class, you have upper, middle, lower, and you have, a variant of people, across there. But I'm looking at the whole middle class. We are the working class. We are the workers. We are the laborers. We are the consumers that spur the capitalistic society, economic systems that we have globally. It is the consumer, the middle class, that buys the products, that creates the demand for products to be made, which provides the demand and the necessity for the haves to create industry to provide for the wants and demands of the middle class. They don't provide for the wants and demands of the poor. They build and supply the wants and demands of the middle class. So the middle class are the ones that drive the global type economy. We have shit to lose. So if you look at it from the mandate perspective, what's going on is the poor, I'm talking poor, what do they have to lose to get the shot or not get the shot? They're not going to lose anything. Whether they get the shot or don't, they don't lose anything. They don't travel like the middle class does. It's like airlines, going into other countries, etc. They may travel within the United States, but usually by car, by auto, right? But they don't have a job to lose. They're on some type of government assistance or whatever. They're living poor, hand to mouth, if you will. If they don't get the shot, what do they lose? They lose nothing. If the rich, the evil 1%ers don't get the shot, what do they lose? Nothing. They have their millions or billions or whatever in the bank or in investments, or they don't have to work. Fuck it. I'm not getting a shot. I'm going to go get on my yacht, sail around the world, and live off, the billions or millions of dollars or whatever that they have in the bank. So the haves and the have-nots have nothing to lose. It's us. We have a lot to lose. We have our families to lose. We have our families to provide for. We have to keep the lights on. We have to keep clothes on our children's backs. We have to keep food in their mouth. We have to keep the roof over their heads, right? Well, if we don't get the shot, we lose that. And a lot of people in the middle class have been real comfortable and don't want to go through the discomfort of not having the stuff they want. They don't want to lose their house. Pardon me, their cars, their multiple cell phones and whatever, comfort items that they have. So they have a lot to lose. That's why it's taking, like, I'll use Australia as an example, draconian lockdowns and having to download an app and all this other shit for people to start getting out on the street and pushing back against the government. Because they basically have lost a lot of what they had because of the mandates of the government. So now a lot of them are falling into the have-not category and have nothing to lose anymore. But here in the States, we're still holding on to, we have a lot to lose. We being the middle class. That's why there's not an uprising, an uproar, the city streets burning, etc., right? Because we have a lot to lose. I'm in the same boat. I'm in a position to where potentially I'm going to lose my job because the mandates are coming. It hasn't hit quite yet, but it's coming. And if I choose not to get the shot, I lose my job. If I lose this job and don't find an equivalent job that doesn't require, the vaccine, I lose my house, I lose my vehicles, I probably have to go bankrupt and deal with all that other bullshit, right? So I have everything to lose. How many of us being the middle class, are willing to lose that, to stand up for ourselves, to stand up for our freedoms, our rights? And this, don't get this twisted, this whole mandate thing, my stance against the mandate thing is not anti-vax. I'm not anti-science. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm anti-mandate. It's a constitutional thing with me. Right or wrong, good or bad, whether the vaccine works, doesn't work, is irrelevant to me when it comes to the mandate piece of this. Who in their right minds believes that the federal government or even the state, local, county governments have the right to mandate a foreign object be forcibly jabbed into your body in order for you to provide for your family? That's my stance. But going back to my main point about the middle class, it's because of the size of our middle class here in the United States specifically. There's millions upon millions of people that are afraid to take the stand against the vaccine, to do what's right in order to protect everybody else's rights. We're concerned with what's happening at our table, right? We all want to keep the lights on and food in our bellies and that kind of stuff. We don't want to lose that. We don't want to have to go through the discomfort of that. Some of us grew up poor, worked our way through the middle class, so we know what it's like to be poor. We don't want to go back to it. Some of us grew up poor, worked our way through where we are now, and are not afraid to be poor because we've been there, done that. We know how to survive that way, right? But you have millions of people in the United States that don't know how or what they would do without what they currently have. They don't know how to live poorly, if you will. They don't know how to make pinto beans and cornbread with every meal because it's cheap and filling, right? But we as a society and here in the United States, our middle class is the reason why things are being allowed to go as far as they are, because our middle class are too comfortable with what they have and do not want to lose it. Right, I don't know if I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and I'm not trying to cast it's your fault middle class. I'm not saying it that way at all. I'm just looking at the reality of it. I'm going through this whole exercise with me and my wife and kids of what do we do if the job that I currently have pushes the mandate. We've started looking at what we can afford and can't afford, where we'd have to live, looking at other potential jobs, that kind of stuff, right? So I'm looking at multiple different avenues of what's going to happen or what we're going to do if the mandate comes. So I'm making plans for it, but it's still going to be painful. And some of us in the middle class have to take care of elderly parents. Well, if you lose your job, you lose your medical insurance, you lose your income, and you're let's say you're caring for your mom, your dad, your in-laws, your handicapped cousin, whatever it is, right? If you're caring for another person that's not able to take care of themselves, well, that's another weight on your table that you have to that people having to take into account. If I make the stand against the vaccine and lose my job, I lose my health care, I can't take care of my mom, whatever, right? Or the handicapped person that's living with them. If they can't take care of those people and or themselves to begin with, they can't take care of the other person that needs assistance, that's a lot to lose. And I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, but I don't know how one would go about this, but I think a survey would be the right way to say it, would need to be done as to how many people have gotten the vaccines, not because they believe in the vaccines, not because they believe in the science behind the vaccines, nothing to do with the medical part or the scientific part or they're doing it for the betterment of society part, none of that. I want to know how many people got the vaccine solely to save their jobs. That'd be an interesting survey. I'd wish somebody, the People's Pundit or somebody along those lines would do that. Do a survey of the millions upon millions of people in the United States, or you can do this globally, but United States would be a good sample size. How many people got the vaccine just to save their job? And I would like to propose or do a thought about this, a thought exercise of the millions, tens of millions of, or whatever the number happens to be, of people who got the vaccine solely to protect their job. Instead of doing that, would have stood up and said no, or did a walkout like Southwest Air's pilots are doing, that kind of stuff. What kind of impact that would have had? Think about it. If there's like 60% of the United States population has been at least one shot of the vaccine, so that's 180-ish million people, 190-ish million people in the United States that have been vaccinated. If 50% of them just got the vaccine because they wanted to save their job, if they wouldn't have done it and pushed back, that's 50 million people, in addition to the current millions of people that are refusing the mandate because of the vaccine because of the mandate. That'd be a force to reckon with. But millions of people have people dependent upon them to provide, and they couldn't afford to risk that, losing what they had. They couldn't afford to risk it. They were too afraid to risk it. Whatever the correct connotation to that would be. But I say all that because our middle class got comfortable. Our middle class has gotten lazy. Our middle class has gotten laissez-faire with a lot of stuff that they should not have. One of the commandments, if you will, from our founding fathers was to never lose sight, never take your eye off the government, never allow them an inch. Keep them restrained within the confines of the Constitution. That went the way of the dodo bird 150 years ago. But our middle class is, I think, one of the main reasons, not the only, but one of the main reasons why this mandate shit has been allowed to go as far as it has gone. If we were to stand up as a class of people and we demanded this shit to stop, if we did a week of not going to work, I'm talking the lower, middle, and upper middle classes, if all of the tens, if not hundreds of millions of people that fall into that category, or those three categories, were to say, fuck you, I'm not coming to work until you get rid of this shit, we would stop the global economy. It would come to an absolute halt. You think a truck driver strike has an impact? Think about all the truck drivers, everybody that works in a factory, everybody works in insurance, roofing companies, whatever it is, right? The whole entire middle class just said, stop, I'm not coming back to work until this shit gets changed or is removed or goes away, whatever. Just think about what that would have done to all this stuff. But we can't do it. You have people that are proponents of the vaccine because they thoroughly believe in it. They believe what they've been hearing about it, and there's some that are do-gooders that believe that they did it because their understanding is it helps society because it's protecting people. Okay, that's fine. You have that group of people. But I'd be willing to put money on a majority of people in the United States that got the vaccine only got it to save their job. Not because they believe in it, not because of the science, but they needed the paycheck. They need to pay their electric bill. They need to pay keep their insurance because they have a special needs son or daughter or whatever, right? But if we were to stand up as a class, as a entity, collective entity, and say no more, I bet you this stuff would stop cold in its tracks. All we have to do is a 1 week, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday walkout across the board of everybody not going to work, sacrificing 1 week's worth of pay, potentially sacrificing their jobs per se, but I guarantee you, if 90% of the workforce were to walk out for a week, heads would roll, shit would stop, and things would get back to normal real fucking quick. But our middle class is too comfortable. Anyway, that was just my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your opinions. Let me know if you think I'm way off or if my thinking is skewed or whatever, but I'm a firm believer that our middle class is why our middle class is too comfortable in what they have and are unwilling to risk losing it to stand up for what is right. That's why we are where we are. That's one of the main reasons why. There's more to it, but I believe it's one of the main reasons why. Let me know if you think I'm on it, if you think I'm crazy or whatever. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day.